What is going on, everybody? My name is Jared and welcome back to the channel. In this episode we are going to pick up where we left off with rebuilding the Bravo transom assembly. I got everything laid out here on the workbench that I need to go back into this stuff. So without further ado, let's get this stuff in here. Back in 2017 I began a full restoration of my 96 Bayliner by tearing it apart all the way down to the hull. From there I began the rebuilding process, which included learning to fiberglass, rebuilding an engine and outdrive, learning to fare and paint, and even upholstery. Now I've bought a 28-foot cabin cruiser and I'm starting all over. Welcome, my name's Jared. Now get ready, because it's going to be a ship show. Alright guys, so we are going to start off actually with the gimbal ring, even though most of the work that needs to be done first is on the transom housing itself. However, I need to install the two new bushings on either side for the swivel pins, or the hinge pins, and I think it's going to be easier to do that before it's mounted on there. So we are going to start with this. One thing that I'm going to do here, and you may not have to do this on yours, but because I did not tape off these openings where these bushings go, they kind of got filled with some paint. What I'm going to do now is to actually go in here with a brake cylinder hone. If you guys have ever seen a cylinder hone for like an engine, it's basically a really mini version of that. So it's got the little stones on there, spring loaded, and this is adjustable for like 3/4 inch to 2 inch or something like that. So what I'm going to do with this here is go inside these bores and just spin it around slowly till I just get down to, like, once I see the green primer, I may see how close the fit is, but I may end up going all the way down to the bare aluminum. So we're going to give this a shot, see how it goes. I'm kind of making this procedure up as I go. Most of you guys, like I said, will probably have this taped off and don't have to do this step, but I'm doing it. Okay, I think I got these bored out pretty well, so I'm going to go ahead and get this coated with some retaining compound, and we are going to push it in. You can see it almost goes in on its own, but it's going to need a little bit of help, and this retaining compound will make sure that it doesn't come back out. Okay, so let's get our tool here with our extra hinge pin. This is what we need to install it, like that. And then this gets placed on top of the hinge pin as a mandrel. Let's go ahead and get some of this on there, some of this on there. Yeah, let's get this in here. All right, okay, let's get this other one done, and we're gonna move on to the transom assembly. Okay, so the gimbal ring I had down on the floor, I forgot a piece and I just went to put it in, and after I was done I realized the camera was not recording. But that is this bushing here. Same process as these bushings on the side. You just put some retaining compound on and knock it on with this tool. This goes in here like that, just hammer it in. And now this is good to go. So I'm gonna put this back over here, and now we're gonna go back to the bench and work on the transom assembly. So I just finished going through this, cleaning up the holes, removing any of the paint buildup, anything like that. And now it is time to go in with the small and large bushing. So small one, here's the part number. Big one, here's the part number. Okay, so once again we're gonna be using this tool. So let's get the small bushing out. All right, so that's the bushing on the tool there. And that's gonna go down through here and press that in to the top of the housing. Let me see if I can get you guys set up here. Okay, so if you come in here, let's get the light around to the other side. Okay. So that hole right there is where that small bushing's going. So we're going to drop that tool down in, hammer it into place with some retaining compound, and move on. Okay, the key here is just making sure you get it started straight. And we're going to watch it in. Based on the tool, that's as far as that can go. And it appears to be fully seated. So there it is installed. Okay, now we're going to move on to the larger bushing, which goes up here, and then the seal. Okay, open up the larger bushing. That's going to go down in there with the same tool. Okay, now with this one, the tip of the installation tool is actually inside that bushing that we just used, so that's going to help guide this in nice and straight. Okay, now it's time for the seal that goes above the bushing. And this goes in with the spring side facing towards the top of the transom. In this case, the bottom because it's upside down. Now it's easy enough. Swipe up any excess retaining compound. I do have a couple spots here I'm gonna have to touch up with some anti-fouling I scraped through. That's not a big deal. There's a couple other spots I'm gonna get anyway, like where these bolts are sticking through. So we are ready to install the new steering pin. This is that beautiful little guy right here, stainless steel. Over here is the steering arm, which I just realized I never really did clean up and paint, but it's not in that bad a shape anyway. Okay, for this next step, we need our new washers, which are the small and large washers, these part numbers here. Yeah, you can see that. As well as our new nut that goes on top of the steering pin. Okay, so we are going to take our steering pin, and before anything, I'm going to throw some grease in here. So we have our grease. We are going to now take the steering pin, slide it through the seal, being careful not to tear it. Okay, so before we can get the steering arm on, we need to reinstall the U-bolt rather, in the gimbal housing, or gimbal ring. Can't keep my words straight today. We got our new stainless U-bolt, which is going to go down in here, just like that, no problem. We're going to get our cleaned up plate, like that, and replace the two nuts. Okay, got that hand tight for now. So that should be good to go. So let's bring our transom assembly back up here. Okay, I'm going to try to show this as best as I can, starting with the gimbal ring. With the U-bolt installed and the nuts hand tight, we're going to slide the gimbal ring roughly in place. So looking at the back side, what we need to do is take our new swivel pin. We're going to pop that up underneath the gimbal housing, or the gimbal ring, and I'll show you that. And it should pop up back here, and there it is. So the order of how this goes is we have a large washer, a small washer, and a nut, and that goes on top of the steering lever. So I'm going to stack that stuff on top of here. I'll show you here in a second. So I have that nut and washer stacked on top. So I'm going to lower that pin back down a little bit, slide it in place, and try, I think we lost it. See if I can recover. There we go. Okay. And what I need to do now is rotate it with my left hand or move around the steering arm until I get the square lined up with the steering lever. And at the same time, I'm trying to kind of wiggle around the steering pin to make sure it goes into the upper bushing. So there's kind of a lot of stuff we're trying to align here. Okay. Hopefully that stays. And I'm going to get the wrench for the lock nut and see if we can't get this started without cross threading it. That would obviously be no bueno. I think it might actually be going on. It is. Nice. Okay, so the lock nut part just started engaging. Now let me show you up close what exactly is going on here, because I know that was not the best camera work. So on the gimbal ring side, we have the steering pin up underneath. It's obviously not drawn up tight yet. You can see there's slack in there. And then on the back side, we have, if you can see it, large washer, steering arm, small washer, lock nut, and then the steering pin's going up into that upper bushing. So now that we're at this point, before I go any further and tighten anything up, there's sort of a certain operation, or order of operations rather, that needs to happen. So the first thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to fully install this lower pin, and in order to do that, you need to align this slot with a flathead screwdriver straight away, because there is a hole in the side of this that aligns with, let me see, there you go. If you can see that, there's a hole there that gets a cotter pin in it later to lock it in place. Oh, you know what? I think I'm missing a washer. Hold on. Yeah, that's right. So this real thin washer that needs to go in before this pin. Technically, this doesn't have to come the whole way out, as long as I can work this washer in here. Okay. we have that pin in, aligned, oh, and I can see straight through. Let me see if I can show you that. Okay, so we got that pin in there, the slot straight forward, and that is what this hole here is for on the side of the gimbal ring. If you look down there, right there, see that? That hole there? That's actually going through that pin because it's aligned correctly, so that cotter pin goes in now. Okay, so let's get out our new cotter pin here. If you guys are playing the part number game, there it is. Okay, that's as far in as that's going to go. Now we're just going to bend these over. There's that cotter pin installed. So that is done. Okay, so this is the part where we make the adjustment. So this gap down here with that washer, what we want to do is tighten the top lock nut on the swivel arm until there's between 2 and 10 thousandths clearance between this. So we need to take feeler gauges and adjust it until that's the case. Now, the way I have this set is not going to work because it's biasing up this whole gimbal ring. It actually needs to be sitting in a way that it's not resting on the gimbal ring. So I'm going to try and find a block or something to fit under here. Okay, so we are ready to start fine-tuning this measurement. I got my feeler gauges here. I have a 5 thousandths feeler gauge. The spec is 2 to 10, so I'm shooting for like low to mid, somewhere in that spec. Okay, so with my 5 thousandths feeler gauge, I'm sticking it between this piece of the transom housing and that washer. Okay, so you can see that 5 thousandths feeler gauge is going in. It's a little bit of drag, but it's not too tight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my wrench and give this nut just the slightest little bit of tightening. Okay. Just remember, it doesn't take much to make that adjustment. Okay, so now my 5 is, oh, it's still just barely going in there. It's starting to get snug in the back, but what that's telling me is it's either like right at 5 or maybe just a hair under. So I'm actually going to be good with that measurement. That means it's probably somewhere between 4 and 5 thousandths, which again is the low to mid end of the spec. Just remember, if you go too tight and you need to loosen it, you should take your rubber mallet and give this gimbal ring a whack to bias it all the way down. Make sure that thing's all slid down. And just for the sake of sanity, since I just did that again, still the same. So next thing we need to do is tighten down the U-bolt, and that gets tightened to 56 foot-pounds. So I got my torque wrench here. Now I'm not going to do that all at once on one side. I'm just going to go kind of alternate left and right until I hit my torque. So what this is doing is actually clamping the top part of the gimbal ring onto the new steering pin. U-bolt is torqued. So the last thing we need to tighten is this pinch bolt back here. And these get tightened to 50 foot-pounds, which I don't actually have a socket wrench that's going to fit in here. So we're going with the old best guess method. If that's not 50 foot-pounds, I don't know what is. One last sanity check. It is a little tighter, but it's still just barely going in. So, yeah, see. So there you go. That's how you replace your steering pin, bushings, get the gimbal ring back installed. At this point, I think this thing's ready to go back on the boat, and we can finish up all the bellows and everything else. Well, I guess we have a few other things we can wrap up on this first. Alright guys, I think that is going to wrap it up for this one. The transom assembly is coming back together, which is awesome. We got the steering pin installed. Obviously this video is getting long, which is part of the reason, but the other reason, I want these things to be a little bit easier to find when you're searching, so I'm going to break these down into kind of individual tasks. So we're going to say this is the steering pin reassembly video or whatever. Anyways, it feels awesome to have that done. Been staring at this stuff forever, and I know there's some more things that need to get done on this before it can go back in the boat, including we got a seal to put in, a new bulkhead fitting, the Mercathode stuff, all this stuff that has to go back in. But again, it's starting to get long, so I'm going to end it here. I want to thank you guys again for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and yeah, things are happening. It feels good. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.